Moving on, I'd like to present to you all the profile of Dr. G. Narahari Shastri. Dr. Shastri is currently working as the director of CSIR, Northeast Institute of Science and Technology, Jorhat. Dr. Shastri is a chemist working in the interdisciplinary areas spanning chemistry, biology, modeling, and informatics. He was awarded with Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize in Chemical Sciences in 2011, considered as one of the highest prize for science and engineering in India, National Bioscience Award, DBT 2009, one of the highest for life sciences in India, Swarnajyoti Fellowship 2005, B.M. Birla Award for 2001, BC Dev Memorial Award 2009, CRSI Medal 2011, and Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship. He is also Sir J.C. Bose National Fellow. He has delivered more than 350 invited lectures, which include talks in national and international conferences. He was a visiting professor at IMS lectures, which include talks in national and international conferences. He was a professor at IMS Japan, LMU, Munich, Germany, Jackson State University, USA, and Kyushu University, Japan. He is a fellow of National Academy of Sciences, fellow of the Indian Academy of Sciences, fellow of Royal Society of Chemistry, fellow of Association Biotechnology and Pharmacy, Telangana State Academy of Sciences, and Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences. He was recently elected as a fellow of INSA and thus becoming a fellow of 3 most prominent science academies in India. He has more than 282 publications with over 10,300 citations and an H-index of 51. He has successfully guided 24 PhD students and 15 postdoctoral fellows, and currently about 10 researchers are working as postdoctoral fellows for PhD students. Dr. Shastri's research interests are theoretical and computational chemistry, computational biology, computer-aided molecular design, chemoinformatics, and big data and artificial intelligence. Dr. Shastri has made fundamental contributions in the area of non-covalent interactions and developed several important concepts in this area. His group is interested to apply the data science approaches and also developing indigenous software, molecular property diagnostic suite. He is a regular reviewer of several journals and also on the editorial advisory boards of some of the journals. Sir, it's a matter of immense pride to have your presence amongst us today. May I now take the privilege of inviting Dr. G. Narahari Shastri to please speak a few words. Sir, please.
Thank you very much, Akhila. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Rangarao and Dr. Kripanidhi, the Dean of Planning and Monitoring, and definitely Dr. M.Y.S. Prasad Garu and all the management of Vigyan for giving me this platform to share some of the work that we are doing. Before that, I also would like to thank my good friend, Dr. Prashant Suravachula, who is one of the force behind BioClues and also this APBioNet, who was responsible for me to accept this invitation and then give a talk. I would like to now share my slides. Today, I'm going to talk about, I'm trying to give a minute. Are you able to see? Can somebody say yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay, yes, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. And I would like to give a overall view about the infection and immunity in the context of the current pandemic that is going on and the role of modeling and informatics. So if you look at drug discovery, as this is one of the first talks, and after hearing Professor Kenta Nakai's talk, I thought that we will also have an introduction about drug discovery. And in drug discovery, about 200 years before, it's all about some vaccines or some serums, and small compounds were used to treat diseases. And this also went on for several years, where the small molecules are drugs, and there was a concept called lock and key mechanism, where a small key will interact with a biological receptor, which is a lock. And that also led to different types of hypotheses that are there in drug discovery and gave rise to pharmaceutical sciences and medicinal chemistry in a very big way. And then rational drug design aspects have started based on the structure-based approaches and analog-based approaches, where basically an analog-based approach is you have a key which might open an unknown lock. You don't know the mechanism of action, but you know that this particular small molecule will have an efficacy against a particular disease. And in contrast, if you know what is the receptor, you would like to make a suitable key so that the particular lock can be targeted, like different inhibitors, which will further become drugs. Afterwards, there are monoclonal antibodies and intracellular inhibitors and epigenetic drugs and oligonucleotide therapeutics, and the most important thing is genome editing with CRISPR-Cas and next generation sequencing, as it has been discussed in the earlier lecture, and network therapeutics, and then personalized therapeutics, because even when different people have the same disease, the manifestation of the disease in different people will depend on their genetic makeup. So the personalized medicine is going to be a big thing. So we have a slow transformation of the paradigms in drug discovery, from rational drug design to intelligent machines, and artificial intelligence and machine learning and deep learning are playing a very, very important role. So slowly we are going from target-based therapeutics, which is very, very definitive and simple, to molecular mechanisms, to phenotype-based drug discovery. I just wanted to tell you that the drug discovery protocols can be based on a disease type or from a drug, or you can have, this is a very cluttered slide, and I don't want to spend a lot of time in this. I just wanted to tell you that there are different approaches for drug discovery. One is a drug-oriented approach, and another is a disease-oriented approach, which is mostly based on the knowledge base and experimental approaches, which gave some clues, and then we go ahead and then try to develop drugs based on these clues. When molecular modeling and computational approaches played a very important role, the structure-based and ligand-based approaches have played a very strong role in drug discovery. And the drug discovery is a highly multidisciplinary field which involves a large number of people. So there are two distinct verticals which are coming up. One is discovering a new drug or a new chemical entity, essentially a small molecule which will go through the preclinical trials and clinical trials and get an approval from the regulatory agency. And worldwide, the regulatory agency is Food and Drug Administration of United States, and each country will have their own regulatory agencies. So they will clear it, and then it can be used in the population. The other important development that is there is it possible for us to use a drug which is which has an approval against a particular disease? Can that be used for another disease? This is drug repurposing or drug repositioning, which is also playing a very, very important role. And this particular making new compounds or repurposing the known drugs can also be applicable to vaccines. And in our country, recently, the other approaches like phytopharmaceuticals, which will be a mixture of compounds, that is also picking up. it is not a new chemical entity, but a phytopharmaceutical route to find a therapeutic for a disease that is also coming up. And another route is an Ayush route, where we will try to get the traditional wisdom from Ayush. There is actually an MOU which is signed with CSIR and Ayush Ministry, where one can take the mixtures or the therapeutic procedures which were there in our tradition to be scientifically validated, and there is a possibility to get the regulatory approach. So fortunately, on this particular Ayush mode, we don't have to go through the preclinical studies, and then it can be used based on the clinical trials. So if you look at a well-known strategy, that there is a disease, and there are several genes associated pathways that are there which can be related to a disease, and this can related to some metabolic pathways, and from there you can get some druggable targets, and one can have a drug with one or more targets which indirectly or directly associate with disease. And let me try to tell that, okay, disease is there, and how do you define a disease? I will try to take some time to put some simple things in perspective, that things like sickness, illness, malady, and disease are sort of not very clearly understood. And according to WHO, the definition of health is a complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of a disease or infirmity. We'll also try to look at what is infirmity or frailty in more quantitative fashion. And disease in some way can be treated as a perturbation to health. If a person has an ideal health, and if there is a problem with that person, either in physical or a mental or a social dimension, then probably the person is not healthy. If the person is not healthy, maybe there is some disease which can be associated. So there is a strong relationship between immunity, infection, disease, malnutrition, and inadequate dietary intake. And there are other social aspects which are also there, and we cannot really ignore. My idea to kickstart in the beginning of this seminar is to bring to the notice of all the audience that what we are talking in terms of developing a drug, or the current year's focus of INSIP 2020 is bioinformatics for disease therapeutics. We will have to look at what are all the factors that are involved in disease therapeutics. So yes, infection and immunity will be very important aspects, and we have the innate immunity and adaptive immunity. And the innate immunity, there are different pathways like cytokines, dendritic cells, and chemokines, and several very well quantified pathways are there which are related to innate immunity. And there are also several aspects for the adaptive immunity. And I would like to tell that abnormality or dysfunction of the immune system may cause an unexpected immune response, as seen in the case of hypersensitivity, autoimmunity, or immunodeficiency. Autoimmune diseases and disorders are really very, very dominant in many cases, and immunodeficiency is probably one of the strong reasons for people to be infected with infections. And one of the major things that is going on now is the COVID infection. So immunomodulation is key. And even for cancer, after people looking at chemotherapy, radiation, and surgical intervention, the immunocheckpoint therapy seem to be play a very important role. And it's very interesting to look at the infection or in some way allergy and some way the personalized medicine. These are very, very interesting aspects when you want to understand the pathophysiology of these diseases and the manifestation of these diseases in general and manifestation of these diseases differently in different populations. So if you look at the virus, the family, morphology and transmission, you have different types of viruses that are there, and DNA viruses, RNA viruses, and retroviruses. And the understanding of these viruses is becoming more and more due to strong progress that is made in structural biology and protein crystallography, cryo-electron microscopy, and we have a lot more quantitative information about all these DNA viruses, RNA viruses, and retroviruses. So this coronavirus is an RNA virus, and we have a lot of information on the series of these viruses. And there are many drugs which were approved for these viruses. And it's also important to understand the mechanism of these things and then how effective they are. So it's a strong combination of medicinal chemistry, structural biology, understanding of immunity, and understanding the whole metabolic pathways, which involve a lot of understanding of genomics, proteomics, and if you go to the personalized medicine, there are many, many other aspects which are involved. So if you look at the host-pathogen interaction, understanding the molecular basis by which pathogens interact with human and plant hosts, with the ultimate goal of identifying targets for prophylactic or therapeutic treatment. This is very, very important. Why and how a particular pathogen will interact or will not interact with humans. These host pathogen interactions are very important, and there are quite a few people who are working on this for a long time, and because of this post-COVID, there is a lot of interest in CSIR labs, and we are trying to work with many labs, with the THSTI, which is a DBT lab in Delhi, IBST, IIT Guwahati, along with other DRDO and other labs also, to understand what are these host-pathogen interactions, their origin, their molecular pathogenicity, and if possible, can we have the virulence markers, models, biomarkers, therapeutic targets, and diagnostic development. And this, if possible, can we translate them into therapy? So if you see the host-pathogen interaction, the most important thing is how these spike proteins will be interacting with the host, and we can look at different potential drug targeting spike proteins, like we can have neutralizing antibodies, or we can also look at fusion inhibitors, or we can also look at host protease inhibitors. And in all these three directions, a lot of work is going on in India and abroad, and hopefully our understanding of this virus and host pathogen interaction will lead us to have a clarity on our immunity and inflammation. As I said, the WHO definition of health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity, which is a definition given by WHO or World Health Organization. So there are aspects like pain, frailty, aging, inflammation, infection, metabolic and genetic disorders, and exercise and lifestyle as physical fitness, which we can talk about physical, but there are mental and social aspects which also need to be considered. So if you want to really look at the physical and a little bit mental aspects, so you can see nutrition, exercise, sleep, and lifestyle, and in general weight management or eating habits is are one of the factors. And you have mental and social issues which are there, and balancing the pressures and the materialistic pleasures that we have is also very important. So there is a lot of scope to quantify these things by using computational approaches, whether it is data science, machine learning, or it is also structural biology or molecular modeling. So earlier, we have this one disease and one target approach, but you have one target and multiple drugs, and multiple drugs and one target are also possible, which gave rise to network pharmacology and systems biology aspects, which are very important for all of you to consider when you are looking at bioinformatics, especially in drug discovery. So I also wanted to bring some challenges in drug discovery, that not only getting a molecule which is having a therapeutic potential is important, but there are aspects like delivery route. What type of a delivery route that one has, oral or perinatural, and also one has to look at drug-drug interactions, differentiation from current therapies, dosing frequency, what is the cost of the drug, what is the risk of misuse of these controlled substances, what are the side effects, and what is the safety in some selected population, and the dose adjustments in pediatric patients, and the monitoring and the specialist use of these things are also very, very important when you are trying to develop a drug. And I just wanted to tell you that disease interactions is very, very important. So when somebody is having a disease or using a particular drug, and when the new disease comes, how will the new disease be manifested with an individual who is already having a particular disease is an extremely important aspect. And in very simple words, if somebody is having a disease and they are taking a medication, for example, if somebody is having a diabetes, and if they have another disease like a COVID infection, how do we treat that particular person may be a bit different compared to a person who is normal and then have a COVID infection. And you can easily say that somebody who is a woman who is pregnant, they may be different population compared to normal people. Like that, so there is a lot of work that has to be done. So what we have done in our group is that there are a large number of ways in which a particular disease is manifested. And if you want to develop a drug, you will have to consider these multifarious aspects and have a platform or a web portal or a software which will be able to bring all these tools in one place. One of the biggest problems that we have in academics is, while a large part of the bioinformatics software for functional use and databases are free, thanks to EMBL and other community, the computational drug discovery softwares are usually very expensive, and it is sometimes beyond the reach of the general people. So there are two problems here. One is it is very expensive to buy, and the second thing is all of them are coming as finished products, and then it is not possible for somebody to contribute their knowledge into this. So we would like to have a platform wherein people can freely use the software that is available, and also if they write a small code which can be incorporated, and this is implemented as molecular property diagnostic suite. And I have started this about 8-9 years before in Hyderabad, and when I moved to Jorhat, we're also working on this. So it essentially have different modules like data library, data processing, data analysis, and advanced modules. And I just wanted to tell you that the data library will contain all the information about a particular disease and the targets, the literature, the gene library, and the compound library. Data processing will have the file format converter and descriptor calculations. And data analysis will have molecular docking, QSAR, virtual screening, drug repurposing, visualization, sequence analysis, and active site preparation. And advanced modules will have some machine learning tools, text mining, and other computationally intensive tools. And we also have some very specific thing about the disease mechanism. And these modules can be divided into disease-dependent modules and disease-independent modules. And we have first started that with tuberculosis. And now with diabetes and metabolic disorders, they are completed and we have published. And currently COVID-19 portal is coming up and HIV and other portals are coming. So the workflow, we have data library, data processing, data analysis units, and then you can probably refer to the publications that we have. And I just realized that we are running out of time. Dr. Rangarao or somebody, can you tell me that how much time you will give me to wrap up?
So try
because
to
I have a problem that if you don't control me,
yeah, try to
another 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So what we have done is we try to give a number for every single compound in the chemical space. And I am very happy that this particular exercise is done in the world for the first time in our group, where we have taken all chemical space into different classes and clusters, and each compound will have a unique ID that is very much similar to an Aadhaar card. And I feel that the molecule is like a human being. So as every person in India has a Aadhaar card, we would like to give an Aadhaar card for each molecule, which will give some properties of this in the first page, but it might have second page and third page, and we are constructing. And so far, we are able to create this database of 130 million compounds. And this particular data will be very, very useful in subjecting them to a large number of machine learning and AI and other data science techniques. So these MPDS portals are coming up, and I wanted people to use them. And I will just go through very quickly. This COVID portal is also coming up. I will just quickly talk about our institute work that we have done. And we have done the COVID testing. And so far, this number is about 38,000 samples we have done. Now we are able to do a lot of samples, but we are not getting that many samples, though. That's why we are not doing it. Otherwise, we have started this COVID testing, and also we have done the serological study, Zero Time from a Phenome India, and all the CSIR lab employees were a cohort group, and then this is going to come up in a big way, and then maybe all the CSIR labs, we are about to publish this paper. And another thing that we have done is a summer research training program in CSIR NIST, where we are able to provide training for 16,000 people who have applied within a gap of 10 to 15 days. All the applications have come, and then we started this training from July to September in this year, and where people like N.R. Narayan Murthy of Infosys and Arya Mashelkar and the PSA to government, Dr. Vijay Raghavan, and a large number of people have come. And then this was a very good experience, and we have more than 1 million visitors for our SRTP website. And we also have conducted some drug discovery hackathon program, which might be relevant. I wanted many of you to visit this website, which is available. Many lectures are available. In 3 verticals we have conducted from July 13th to September 11th. And vertical 1 is focused on theory and computational methods. And vertical 2 is focused on algorithm and method development. And vertical 3 is based on open source and commercial software. All the commercial software people like Schrodinger, BioVia, Chemexon, Cresset, they have come and then given the demonstration. And everything is done online, and the CSIR NIST was the platform. And this is all possible because of the enthusiastic participation of many of the people. This is a group photo that we have done with a bioinformatics workshop. And thank you very much. And I'm very happy that I'm able to finish the lecture despite our internet problems. Hopefully, you are able to listen to this lecture through online. Thank you very much.
All right, sir. That was informative and intellectual too. Thank you for delivering your insights today despite your busy schedule on this occasion. Thank you very much, sir.